Welcome to another episode of the Hospitality Mentor Podcast. And today, this has been a long time coming. I've got my friend Michael Friedman, the CEO of the Simple Life Hospitality and a luxury hospitality expert. Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Steve. It's great to be here finally. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it. And we were just talking backstage. I hope it's okay I bring this up, but you're a grandfather as of this weekend. So congratulations, man.
Yep. Thank you. First grandchild, a little boy, and we're super excited. So a future, hopefully, well, maybe not. I don't know. We'll have to see if we want him to be in the hospitality industry. I don't know. We have to be determined, we'll say.
Yeah. Let's say. And so for viewers, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Michael shocked me. I thought he was like a young guy in his 40s, and now he told me a grandfather. So, and listeners, come check out the YouTube channel if you haven't yet. We'd love to have you subscribe here at the Hospitality Mentor. But Michael, we always start with the very first question. What was your first job in hospitality?
Yeah, so my first job in hospitality was actually working for Miller Brewing Company as a tour guide at their brewery in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but also as a bartender at a large summer. It's called Summerfest. It's a big outdoor music festival that happens in Milwaukee in June and July. And so really my first foray into hospitality was serving beer. Basically just being a bartender at a summer music festival. And this is when beers too, by the way, Steve, were 50 cents a beer. Now I think at Summerfest, I want to say they're like $6 or $7 a beer. So
yeah, that's a good deal.
A long time ago.
So how old were you when you were doing that?
I was in college. Yeah. So this was back in college. So the drinking age in Wisconsin back then was 18. So we had some advantages there, but yeah, I think I was 19 or 20 when I was doing it. And it was just, one of those summer jobs. But it was a lot of fun. And, it's just, I'm a people person anyways. And it was just really nice to be out there and, listen to music and serve beer. I mean, really wasn't
beat that in college. University of Wisconsin, having a great time.
Yeah, right? It was a good gig. It was really a good gig.
As a fraternity guy, I'm sure, serving beer, you were one of the most popular people in your fraternity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so you're going to school, and you're in Wisconsin. Is hospitality something you have in your mind, or is that not even on the radar?
No, that's a great question. No, actually, I was a political science and history major. I had a double major in Soviet foreign policy and Russian history. And, wow. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. I thought law school, maybe go to work for the government. But came out of school, none of that really materialized because it just didn't really inspire me. I worked for my father for quite some time. He had a real estate development company in Milwaukee, and that kind of got me into the real estate side of things, mostly the residential and commercial side of the industry. Nothing really hospitality driven till several years later when I started to do some consulting. And so, but real estate was a great base for me. It was a place to start. It was great to learn the industry, the ins and outs of residential and commercial real estate. And that led me to, the opportunities that I, eventually had down the road.
And you mentioned you got into consulting. So we're working with REIC, which is a consulting firm. Mm-hmm. How did you decide to do that and say, all right, Dad, it's time for me to head out on my own and start learning some new things? Is that kind of what happened?
It kind of was. Yeah, actually, it was an opportunity for me to, do some things differently. I really loved working with my dad. I learned a lot, but it was time. It was, I had been coached personally, a personal coach. And I saw the value in education, and I started working with clients who were asking me for certain things, how did you build this? How did you do that? And it was all through coaching. It was all through coaching and mentoring, which I'm a huge fan of. And I know we'll talk more about VRU later, but it's one of those things where I just believe in giving back. And so from an educational perspective, when someone asked me for something, I was always giving advice, and I wasn't really charging for it. It was just like, oh, here's what I did. And this is what I did. And this is how I did it. And then, one day I kind of woke up and I'm like, well, a lot of people are asking me for these opportunities, and how did I build this, and how did I scale it? And I started, charging, and it just slowly grew from there. And that's really what kind of got me into the short-term rental business. Was I was consulting for smaller companies in the Charleston, South Carolina area that were real estate related based firms, but they were starting to delve into short term rentals. How do we get into this business? Or we've got a small portfolio of properties, and how do we dive in deeper? How do we build and scale? And lo and behold, one company that came to us or came to me looking for help to scale their business was iTrip. And it just so happened that they wanted to hire a consultant first. They really weren't looking to hire a full time employee. But after about 6 months, they turned into a full time opportunity. And I was there for almost 6 years, helping scale and grow on the business development side, doing a lot of the training, building out iTrip University and things like that. So, more from real estate to short-term rentals, which I've been in ever since in various ways.
And you're doing it early. This is before Airbnb really took off. This was 2011 when you joined iTrip.
Correct.
And so it just kind of started, but didn't really take off. So what was it like at that time when you were doing it? Was it a whole different world than we all see now?
I think it was a whole different world. There weren't as many tools and resources that we had at our fingertips. Obviously, Airbnb had just kind of started. HomeAway was still in business. There wasn't Booking.com existed, but no one really even thought about putting our homes in Booking.com at the time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the boutique OTAs that exist now that we're on Whimstay and B&B Finder, and just really some great resourcing just didn't exist. So I think from that perspective, it was very, very different. We also had our own internal PMS, so we weren't working with an outside property management software system. And I don't want to say it was antiquated by any means, Steve, but it was a different pace. Today there's all this consolidation and everyone's moving so quick and everyone's trying to find that niche in the space to create new tools and softwares. And we're using them all. I mean, there's huge value in it now. And I think back then we just didn't really have all of that. Guest experience was making sure you had a guest book, like a little physical book in the property. Today it's all online, it's automated, it's app driven. So it was very different from that perspective. But I will say this, one thing that I've noticed is that today, I was asked about AI recently, is that back then we were really hands-on talking to people. We were really having conversations. And that doesn't mean today we're not. It just means that we were more involved with the guests from the time they booked to the time they checked out. But it was really through having conversations and sending emails and texts. But to now it's like, oh, go to this app, do this, download that, hit this, do that, done. And we have to be really careful, I think, that we don't lose that personal touch. That personal touch for us at Simple Life is critical. I mean, it's one of the things that we built the company on. And, this last year we read Unreasonable Hospitality, and it's how do we drive that? How do we really get deeper ingrained with the guest and our homeowners as well?
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about what you're doing there now, because we're doing a couple of things similar that I think people will benefit. So you're doing iTrip, you're there, you're helping build it up. And then you start to transition. So you get to a company here, Luxury Simplified. Is that a transition that?
Yeah, it was just it was a transition. Yeah, it was a small company that I worked with consulting wise as a real estate development company in Charleston, and it just was an opportunity to kind of do some different things at a more local level. iTrip was growing, but there were just some challenges that I experienced while we were there, as far as it being a franchise-based model and just making sure that the right people were in the right seats, owning the right markets and territories. But kind of just needed a new challenge. I was always looking for a new challenge, and how do I scale and build and grow something? And so, Luxury Simplified is a small real estate firm based in Charleston, but had the opportunity to scale and grow and build that from a property perspective on the vacation rental side, but also on the real estate side. So it kind of kept my hands in both, which was really nice, and just a good experience from that perspective. Working for a much smaller firm. And I've been with both, and we can talk about that, where, in the last year, worked for, one of the largest hospitality brands in the world, very different from where I am today.
No, I like it. And so while you're doing that, you start to develop Vacation Rental University, right? So right around that time. So how does that come around? Because you talked about your love for teaching.
Yeah.
How does this come up? Because I don't know if you remember, but I think you and I talked back in January of that time, or like December of 2018, and I
We
started learning
did.
about what you were doing. So talk to me about
We
that.
we did it. So one of the things about our industry, even to this day, and I might be one of those people on my own island, but I'm going to say it. I still think our education in the short-term rental industry really needs help. I
Yeah.
think it's getting better. A lot of the events, which I don't want to go off on that tangent, but I mean, I think a lot of the events today are still, I want to say they're a bit stale. The content is not where it needs to be, and I think it needs to be improved. But back then, I got connected with Micah Berg, who was at the time the CEO and founder of Real Joy Vacations down in Destin, Florida. And he, myself, Jim Olin, who's an industry vet, Simon Lehman, we saw an opportunity to create a platform where we could help individual property managers, whether they're a person who's managing one home to 1,000 homes, have educational resources at their fingertips. And so we created a self-learning module, if you would, and VRU exists still to this day. We have about 400, maybe 4,000 subscribers, both free and paid. And we created about 400 lessons. It took us about 6 months to do that, but we created everything from the A to Z you would need to know as a property manager in the industry. And so it was self-taught, or it could be consulting as well. We picked up some very large consulting clients from that. And it was great. I mean, and what I think we found with that is people want education. There just really wasn't an opportunity to go out and find it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And even to this day, there really isn't like a one-stop shop for it. We created modules on accounting, operations, sales, business development, cleaning, maintenance. I mean, you name it. You can go to VRU today, and it's still there. You can sign up for free, and there's some really great lessons. We're not doing much with it, to be quite candid and honest. It's just kind of its standalone and does its thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're not really sure what we want to do with it, but I think it's still a good tool for people who are in the industry and want to understand certain aspects of it. Bigger teams can use it as their LMS, which we had some companies use it as their LMS, their learning management systems. So it's good. It was really good. And I think what we created was something that gave the industry back resources that were really, really needed. And I still think they are today. I know there's a lot of people out there doing one-offs of things that like we created and did, and that's great. But I still wish there was more of a formalized place for education. And I think it's just going to take time. Steve, I'll be honest, the one thing we noticed, and we saw this early on, is everyone wants education. The funny part is they don't necessarily want to pay for it. And
Exactly.
And so, they want all the resources, but sometimes they want it for free. So we made it affordable. And even with, the free version, you can get about 40 lessons, and it's really, really quite valuable.
No, it's interesting because there is not like a central place. Like right in hotels, they look at the Forbes standards or the AAA standards. Now Michelin has theirs, but they don't tell you what they're shopping.
Correct.
I just did a hotel shop for a client, and it's very clear. Like here's what you have to do to get the points. And in vacation rentals, it's a little bit more challenging because a lot of people start without any experience, and there are no clear-cut standards other than what Airbnb gives you now to like stay on the platform.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what it is now for everyone.
Well, it is. And what's interesting about this is someone asked me recently, we were talking about being in the vacation rental management business. And I said, you can't think that way. And then they're like, what are you talking about? I said, you cannot think of yourself as a property manager if you're going to be highly and really uberly successful in this industry. I said, number one, yes, you manage the asset, and that's the home, and you take care of it, and you clean it, and you do the maintenance on it. But I said, you have to completely shift your thinking and think as like a hotelier would. You've got to think hospitality, and that's what you have to build this on. Hospitality to your homeowners, hospitality, obviously, to your guests and the experiences they have. And I think that's the one thing I've really just instilled in, all the clients I've either consulted with, firms I've worked with, most recently, obviously, Simple Life. And I think we're doing it really, really well here. Can we improve? Sure, of course. But I think when we shift our thinking that way and we operate that way, and our day-to-day operations are built around that, and the experiences the guests have are built around that, it's a whole different ballgame as it relates to, being quote unquote a property manager.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love that you're doing that because our team, we only hire hotel people to come in
There you go.
because we need that mindset. We had done it a little bit differently, and it was a challenge. Like, why would I go to that person's place at 9 o'clock when they complain to us? Because that's what you do. That's how you take care of somebody.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So those are the things I love that you're talking about. And so let's get back to your journey because it's so unique. So you get a taste of all different things. So you get into kind of the sales role and business development of a couple of companies. And we don't have to go too deep, but maybe you
Sure.
can touch on them because you go through, at Direct, then you're with Skyrun Vacation Rental, so back in the management, and then you're with Superhog, where, was this really
Mhm.
interesting company. Kind of give me like the journey there of what you learned.
Yeah, it was great. It was great experience to be on both sides of this industry, Steve. I think that for me, I'm glad I was. I'm glad I wasn't just pigeonholed into becoming, a property manager. Yeah, I think you learn a lot as it relates to being a vendor in this industry because it's very, very different. And having the opportunity to work with a great PMS and the guys at Direct was a great experience, helping them scale the sales side of their business. Going back into property management again with Skyrun at the franchise level was really great. And it's a great company based out in Colorado that's really growing and doing some interesting things on the franchise side of the property management business. There, I was more involved in the growth of the development of the markets. Where at iTrip, I was more focused on the individual franchisees as they already had purchased their territory. So helping them learn and educate, where at Skyrun, it was really more focused on market growth, which was great. Again, another super experience there. And then, Superhog, which was an opportunity for me to scale the Americas for them on a product that's really focused on guest verification, which I think is a huge part of this industry and business right now. And, making sure people are who they say they are. And then more importantly, have products and solutions in place should damage occur. And all of that was just a great learning experience. I know it was kind of jumped around for a few years there, but really trying to find what I wanted to do. But I think all of them were exceptional learning experiences because they were in the industry, but they came at the industry from all different angles. And for me personally, I love that. It goes back to the challenge part that I really, really like and love.
No, I love that you got that experience because not many people get to see both sides of the
No.
coin. And, it prepared you for a unique position that came up right after that, which I'm very excited to talk to you about because it's so different and unique. You became the chief operating officer for the Americas for One Fine Stay. So one of the biggest names in the, let's say, vacation rental industry, but also hospitality industry, which was bought by Accor. Am I correct?
You're correct. Absolutely. Yeah. And it was an opportunity, to manage the team here in the Americas. So, for those of people who don't
Yeah,
know,
give us the 30-second download on who they are.
yeah, Core owns One Fine Stay, and One Fine Stay is a leading luxury property management firm. Where One Fine Stay actually is the property manager in Paris, London, New York, and LA, where they actually are the PM. But what was unique about One Fine Stay, and this is part of the role I love so much, was the OTA side of things, working with individual luxury property managers globally that had luxury inventory but needed really an outlet beyond the likes of a Verbo or an Airbnb to distribute their homes and their inventory. And obviously, it was really focused on the ultra luxury, from that perspective, and that was great. We managed under management in New York and LA. We probably had about 100 homes, but then outside of that, with the North America, the Caribbean, Mexico, Central and South America, we had a couple thousand properties, that we distributed, and mostly working with private family offices, entertainment management companies, things like that, because our average guest wasn't going to go to, like I said, Verbo to book a $10,000 a night stay in the Turks and Caicos. It just wasn't happening. So that was really, really great experience. And I loved being there. I miss the company, even though I have a great opportunity that I'm doing now. But, the company went through some structural changes back in the fall last year. And those things happen. And I wish them well, and they're doing really well. But it was a great opportunity to really dip my foot into the side of luxury that I had not seen, and working other avenues and various avenues of it. I think the biggest thing, Steve, for me was that because we were owned by one of the largest hotel companies in the world, being Accor, I think they're like the fifth or fourth largest now. We operated from that real hospitality mentality. We because a lot of the people came out of the hotel side, had that mentality. The guest experience was exceptional. I mean, just exceptional from a concierge perspective. So all of that really allowed me to take what I learned from there, and now we put into place, here at Simple Life. But it was a great run, and I think if anyone's in this industry and they have luxury inventory, One Fine Stay is the place to distribute it. Not to say that others aren't good. One Fine Stay just has a really great footprint.
Yeah, so what was it like? This is what I was curious to ask you. So I've been in the hotel world most of my career, and now I've been in vacation rental world and short-term rental world for 6 years. And so kind of mix those together. What was it like at Accor that had the vacation rental site? Was it looked as like, oh, this is an afterthought? Were they excited about it? Was it just like, all right, we're dabbling here and experimenting? What was it like from your point of view?
It's a great question. A couple things. Number one, I think they saw value. I know they saw value in what One Fine Stay was doing. Sebastian, the CEO Bazan of a core, really loved the brand, and still does, from my understanding. And I think for them, it was a very different business model, versus, okay, we've got 50 hotels. Here we had, properties under management, that were ours, but then we were also this, really boutique OTA. So I think for them it was a little bit different. Understanding the industry, I came to it with a tremendous amount of experience in the STR side, where a lot of the people there didn't have that, but they come out of hospitality, so it was very transferable from that perspective. The other thing is, it's a big company. It's a publicly traded company. So it was very different from that perspective, very large, but also incredibly well run. And, the resources that we had there were incredible. I mean, that was one of the best parts, is that, we have this great hotel brand company behind us that had the marketing resources, that had, the operational efficiencies, that had a lot of things that we were able to put into place at One Fine Stay. So it was overall a real, I'd say, A+ experience. I think overall, long term, I don't know what their plans are. Obviously, I think their continued growth. I know the New York market became very challenging, because of the rules and laws that changed, when we were there. And when I was there, we shifted from, nightly rentals to 30-day minimums. And that was a big change, and it was a big change in how we ran our brand there and how we marketed the brand there, and, the type of guests we were targeting, because, $60,000, on average a month for a rental, most people don't do that,
Right.
most people can't do that. So we had to really kind of refocus our targeting and where we found our guests. But it's been successful. New York's been successful again, I haven't been there in a while, but for One Fine Stay, it was very successful when I was there, because we were growing our inventory, and we had the types of guests that, we're going to, pay for those types of stays.
Yep. That's cool. So what is something that you learned from there? Like, wow, all right, this is something I'm going to bring with me to the rest of the places I work at or create. Is there something that stands out working with that kind of combination of Accor and One Fine Stay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's that it goes back to what I said earlier, which is thinking not as a property manager, but as a hospitality company. That yes, we rent out homes, and yes, we have assets and inventory, and we take care of the properties, but really the focus is, how do we create that exceptional guest experience? And I think when you create that exceptional guest experience, from the time they book to the time they check in, during their stay, after their stay, little things that, we can talk about that we do, that people would be like, oh, how does that really make a difference? Well, it does. And that's what really gets those 5-star reviews. Are we perfect? No, we're continually trying to improve. But I think that was one of the biggest things that I took away, Steve, was, don't think like, a property manager. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. For
Yeah.
those people listening who are PMs, if you think like that, you're going to miss a lot of those aspects of that guest experience. And that guest experience too transfers over to the homeowner, because when we sit down with a homeowner, first of all, we don't take every home we get, that comes to us that wants to list with us. We're very selective in those types of properties. We just went through, and I know you did too, EOS, which I'm so stoked about,
Mhm.
the entrepreneur operating system. And we've revised how we're doing things. We really want quality homes, but when you sit down with a homeowner and you explain how and what you're doing from the guest experience side of things, it's a game changer. It's just, the homeowner's on board. They'll do the things necessary to make sure that, when someone's staying in their home, they have that great experience. And it doesn't just start with Simple Life. It's when they're getting to that home and making sure that the things and the amenities and all those other vehicles around the home and things that are working for it
Mhm.
are there, and they're in great shape, and it creates that experience. So the guest walks in and feels really good about about why they're there.
I love that. And so that's where I want to transition to now. So let's talk about the Simple Life hospitality. You're back in Wisconsin, right? Is where you're
Yeah,
from, and now you get to work in a great company in your home state. And I see you
yeah.
smiling about it, so that's good.
Yeah, I miss Charleston, South Carolina, very much. I mean, I lived there for over 20 years, and I truly miss it. But it was time. It was time to come home and be close to family. My sons were, as I indicated earlier, getting older and wanting to have children, and so it's great to be back. I grew up in a suburb of Milwaukee, went to school here in Madison at the UW, and it's just great to be back. And when I came back, was still working with One Fine Stay, but with the transition that happened last year, I took some time off, which was great. I took about 3 months off just to decompress, and it was the best 3 months of my life. Did a little traveling, did some fishing, did a lot of reflection on what I want to do next. And interestingly enough, I was at the VRMA about a year ago in Orlando, and one of my former consulting clients through VRU said that she's looking to not so much step away from the company, but to pursue other pursuits that she has passion for, and was really looking for someone who is a strong CEO candidate to take over the role, to run, scale, and grow and build the company. And and so obviously I knew the brand, I knew the company. I'd worked with it for, oh gosh, I think we worked together, I'm going to say about 4 or 5 years in various capacities. And it felt right. It felt really, really good. And so I joined the team a little over, I would say, last year, end of the year was probably when I joined the company. We got everything worked out, and I joined. We're a small team of about 12, which is great.
Mhm.
But we do really, really well. We manage about 150 homes, mostly in Door County, Wisconsin, which is like kind of the Cape Cod of the Midwest. Um, we have homes in Green Bay, Wisconsin, the North Woods, and now slowly going into Lake Geneva. And I think one of the things we learned from EOS is that we are going to have to scale and grow into potentially other markets, really for more of like I guess, from a revenue perspective, our revenues are great, but I think from a cash flow perspective and how we, cash flow throughout the year, we're in our high seasons, May through September,
Yep.
so the rest of the year, it's pretty low. So we need to adjust some of the things there, but EOS really has taught us that. I think it was one of the best investments we ever made, as far as being able to make sure we have the team that we really want in the right seats, doing the right things. We've now implemented EOS for about 3 or 4 weeks in, and the changes are remarkable. I mean, just the progress we've made in scaling and growing has been great. And we're excited. We're excited. We're a small company. We're profitable, which is super exciting in these times where a lot of companies in the STR world are not.
Mhm.
But we're super laser focused on our mission and our goals and our values, and the focus of the company and the future of where it's headed.
I love it. And so for listeners that don't know EOS, how about can you feel comfortable enough explaining to them in like a couple of seconds what it is? So they're like,
Yeah,
all
I
right,
mean,
I've
I
heard
think
the EOS a couple times. What is it?
yeah. EOS is the entrepreneur operating system, and it's just a way. We spent 2.5 days with our EOS implementer, basically evaluating your company. Looking at your values, your core values, your mission. looking at all aspects of your business from the operational side of things to the business development, sales, and marketing side. But it's also looking at the people that you have on your team and making sure that those people are the right people. Are they in the right seats? Because our company's small, like yours, I'm sure we had a lot of crossover. People doing stuff in marketing and sales, but then they had their hands in operations, and people in operations had their hands in guest services. And so, what it did for us is it really kind of helped put all of that in perspective and keep people kind of in their lanes. I hate to say it that way, but move them back into the lanes they should be in, or finding out, hey, I really like doing this, but I'm not that great at it. Or I really like doing this, I'm good at it, but I really don't like doing it, and then being able to delegate and make changes there. So it's been really good. I mean, it was an investment. We decided to pass on some conferences this year and make that capital investment in our team. And I have to say it's a game changer.
I think they'll pay for itself in the first year. It already has for us. We're just completing our first year. And we're very lucky to have a great implementer who worked at Mandarin Oriental and Four Seasons. So she had that background and came in. And so I love it. I'm excited about it. We made some changes. You had to make hard choices too. Like, are these people the right fit? And so sometimes you got to make that change.
You do. And, when I came in last year, I wasn't like this, bull in the China shop CEO. It was stepping back and really evaluating our team and our team members and all of the systems we had in place and the vendors we had in place, making sure they were the right ones and doing a complete evaluation on all of them. And what are the other tools and resources and technology we need as a company to scale and go to the next level. And we made a lot of those and most of those changes in the first, I want to say 6 to 9 months. And then we got to our high season and had a record-setting high season. So we're really confident about where we are as a company and then the future and the growth of Simple Life, but being very strategic about it. Because I think the one thing, I hear this from a lot of property managers. It's like, well, I'm in Orlando and then I'm in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and now I'm buying something in Idaho. And I think over time, I don't know, can you maintain that operational efficiency and consistency? I think many people can, but I think there's a challenge to that, and for us, we're super laser focused on the Wisconsin market. There's still a lot of business to be had here. But we're also aware that, we need to be in a market where we have, more revenue come, say October through March. It just makes sense for us from a financial perspective, and it makes sense from a profitability perspective. So we're looking at that. We're not going to do it right away. It's part of our 3-year goal that by, year 3, we will probably be in an additional market or 2. But where those are, we're not really sure yet. We're looking at some mountain opportunities, and we're also looking at South Florida as well.
I hear Charleston's pretty good too.
Charleston's great. Yeah, it is a good market too, and it's super competitive there. But yet, I think based on kind of who we are and what we do and how we do things, and based on the fact that we're not, and this is no slam against people who own a 2-bedroom condo in Panama City Beach, Florida, but that's just maybe not our product or our inventory in the direction we want to go. We're probably going to go to something a little bit more mid to high or luxury scale.
I like it. So what are you seeing out there now? Because you kind of touched on this, right? So I always advise people, don't buy the studio. Don't get the 1-bedroom. 2-bedroom, you're pushing it because you're competing with hotels. What are you seeing out there? Like, what is your target? Because I know like where you're at is a little bit different, but like if in general, people are listening now. What advice?
I'm happy to share it. Our target is, we look at a couple different things. We look at first and foremost the market, the competitiveness of it. But let's just stay where we are in, say, Door County or northern Wisconsin or Lake Geneva for that matter. Our focus is really next year is to only add about 30 homes. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot to people who might be listening and go, gosh, why only 30? But what we focused on is that 10 of those homes, 10 of those 30 will have to generate a minimum of $50,000 in rental revenue. And then the other 20 are going to generate 75,000 or more. So the reality of it for the end of the day, and that's not a secret by any means of Simple Life, it's just fact, is that we are focused on those homes whether it be homes or cabins or whatever you want to call them, most likely single family homes. That are going to generate that type of volume for us, and more importantly, for our homeowners. So, from that perspective, for us, that's kind of our focusing goal, because we know we can add 30 easily. That's the no brainer part of it. It's just really making sure that we also have the right property owners as well,
Yeah.
and making sure that they are in sync with who we are as a company, the values, and why we do things the way we do it. And I think we're finding that we're doing a good job of that, and we're also in a phase right now of, I guess, purging some of the inventory we have. Not because it's bad, not because the properties are bad, but it's just not a fit anymore for the direction we want to head.
Yeah, I like that. I think some people need to hear that, because the properties you start with aren't the properties that will get you to your goal, right? And so I
No,
think
no,
some people just have to realize that.
yeah, it's hard when you're starting out. This. It's like, oh gosh, that 2 bedroom condo, it sounds so great, and yet, you go through your first year, and it's like, well, maybe that wasn't so great. We didn't make money on it, or we lost money on it, and whatever. And we evaluate it from all of those angles. We've got some great owners that we love. They're easy to work with, but yet we're just not generating the revenue for whatever reason. And are they a good fit? So we have to evaluate all of that, and I think it just takes time.
Yeah. And so I've seen a lot of people come to us, like they were looking at TikTok or Instagram, and they're becoming an Airbnb millionaire, and they start doing the lease arbitrage model. And some people are good at it, others crash and burn, but you want to grow 30 homes. How do you do that? How is someone out there like, hey, we have 5 homes and we want to add another 10? What's your advice to them?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, for us, we're really lucky because most of our owners now that come to us are through referral. We built a great referral network in Door County. I want to say we have probably about 80% market share, which we
Amazing.
dominate there, which is great. But even in the markets we're not that strong in, a lot of it is referral based. There are some really good resources and tools out there, but working with your local realtors, I think, has been one of the better avenues and venues for us, or for us to build relationships with the local real estate community, where they're not managing homes, but they have buyers in those markets doing pro formas for them at no charge, things like that are, again, coming back to the service and educational piece, really educating and providing a great service to your local realtors. And the thing is they're not gonna manage these homes, and so you as the expert on the property management side, you have a lot of value to bring to them. So for us, it's been mostly referrals. It's been the realtors getting involved in your local community where you can, but you have to do, I kind of think, a lot of different things. I mean, we've spent money on direct mail marketing. We've done some email campaigns. Some of it's worked and some of it hasn't. So yeah, I think it's also trial and error, but it's also based on your budget, the market you're in, and what's the market doing. Is it super seasonal? Is it a 12-month market? Who are your competitors? What are they doing? I think you have to evaluate all those things. For us, I would say 30 properties is going to be easy, but also they have to be the right 30 properties.
Yep.
And if we have 40, great. If we have 50, great. But we know we're going to have the right homes moving forward in the future.
That's great. So with the realtors, because that was something a lot of people have been talking about recently, are you paying them a referral fees for what they bring in, or is it a one-time payment? How do you set that up with your realtors?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was always a believer, and part of me still is, that there's value in compensation for the realtor, whether it's an ongoing percentage of the rental revenue or a flat fee. I've done both, and both have been very successful. We at Simple Life don't do that. We basically provide the value of the pro forma for the realtor. We are non-competing, so we're never going to steal their homeowner. We're engaged with the homeowner more than them. So when that homeowner is ready to sell, we're really making sure that that realtor knows that they got to go list that home. Is that going to change? I don't know. I think, again, if we move into other markets where realtors are being compensated, we might have to evaluate that at that time. I guess where I look at it is, what value can we bring to them so their homeowner has a great experience, and then the guests that stay in that property have a great experience. So we haven't been paying it, but doesn't mean down the road we wouldn't do something like that. I think it's just, we'd have to evaluate it.
So if somebody wants to, they're one home right now. They're a solo manager of one place, and they're all right. This year is the year. I'm going to start growing. What advice do you have for them before they start
To
making
grow,
moves? Yeah.
read Unreasonable Hospitality and follow the blueprint and think like a hotelier versus a property manager. Seriously. I mean, there's plenty of homes out there. Finding homes and inventory is not the issue. It's making sure that your operational systems are really, really well fine-tuned. You have a great PMS. Even though if you only have one house, how are you managing that? Because from an integration perspective today, you have to have some vehicle to get out to booking.com and Airbnb and things like that. So even as a small manager, there are some great PMSs out there that you can use and that you can use to scale. So technology is going to be important. Yes, it's an investment, but if you're looking to go from 1 to 5 to 10 or even 1 to 5, I mean, you have to have those tools in place. I think the other big thing I'd say is really understand and learn pricing. Whether it's using a pricing tool like we use Price Labs, but we also have an outside consultant that we meet with, twice a month on pricing and revenue and strategies and things like that. Again, those are, for bigger companies like ours, things that we can do. But I'd even say, make sure you're using dynamic pricing and you're understanding your pricing in your models in your market. But I'd say go back to what's that guest experience and journey look like? It's not just that they book the house. It's they book it and then the experience they have while they're there and going through it again. That's what's going to get the 5-star reviews. Listen, our biggest challenge as a property manager as we scale isn't that we don't have those systems and tools in place. We do, but guest expectations are all different. What you expect or what I expect. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. I remember we had some condos in Miami Beach when I was at iTrip, and I got a call. I was helping the manager there, and we got a call, and this guy's like, "Oh, this place is filthy. This is filthy. It's dirty." It was a brand new condo in the Mondrian, and it's like beautiful oceanfront, great house, a great condo. So we run over there. We're like, okay, what's wrong? Literally, and I'm not, no BS. Literally, there was a crumb, one little crumb of bread behind the toaster. In his mind, the place was dirty. And because when they found that, they said, okay, well, what else is dirty? And so again, it goes back to perception, Steve, is that everyone has a different expectation and perception. And so how do you fulfill that? It's really hard. It's really hard. But I think if you have your operational efficiencies in place, and if something like that comes up, we didn't dispute it. We said, sure. We got the cleaners over there. They came through and they cleaned and mopped and did it. Even though it was clean, he was happy. He felt like we provided a solution to that. In our mind, we're getting in the car. We're going, are you kidding me? Like a crumb? But guess what? What else could have been dirty in that condo? So things like that make a big difference.
It's true. And I love that you said that, because that really is the unreasonable hospitality, right? For one crumb, we're going to clean the whole place up again because we know you're going to hopefully rebook with us again next time.
Exactly. And for our guests that stay with us now at Simple Life, one of the things is we have a proprietary blend of coffee for each of our markets. It's pretty cool. And, so when a guest stays with us now, about 4 weeks before they arrive for their stay, they get a handwritten note welcoming them. And then we send them a little packet of our coffee, knowing that they're going to get to taste that delicious coffee, but that we're looking forward to seeing them. I mean, that $3 or whatever cost it is to send that out, it's huge. It's just, it's magical for these guests. Like, wow, we can't believe you sent us some coffee in advance of our stay. Well, yeah, we want you to experience it, and you're going to have a great time when you come there. Those little things make such a big difference.
I love that. That's what I call hospitality hooks. Like you hook them already before they even get there, where they're most excited about it.
Yeah.
See, you get it. Coffee's away right over here, guys, on the video. This is our coffee, Biscayne coffee, right here on the shelf. So
yeah,
I love it.
Right. And then when they do get there, if there is something a little, screwy or wrong, it's they might still be a little aggravated, but they typically don't think of it. It's like, oh wow, they made a mistake. Whatever, we'll figure it out.
I love that, Michael. I think that's great. And so, look, you're a busy guy. You're running the show there. But if my last question here, if you could go back and whisper into young Michael's ear over at the University of Wisconsin, he's graduating and he's joining your team today, what advice are you giving him as he comes into this world of hospitality?
just to be a sponge. Like, just education is so important, Steve. And to learn as much as you can, and don't think you know it all. I know so many people in this industry, and I know a lot of people in our industry, as you know, and you do too. But don't think you know it all, because at the end of the day, there are so many things that we can learn. I love learning. I'm learning every day. Reading articles on FocusWire and Skift and all the travel networks and things like that. And I think the other thing is be open-minded about how you're learning. Like, one of the things I love about our industry, and I've taught my team this, is that we a lot of what's being written and said, like on the hotel side, or things that are being done on the hotel side, I always ask the question, how do we transfer that over to STR? Can we? And a lot of it we can. And so I think just being open-minded, be the sponge, learn as much as you can. And and some days just don't take it so seriously. Like, it's hard, but after going through the EOS again, and I'll bring this up, is that I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be perfect, and we're not. And I don't think the guest wants perfection, but what they do want is that if something is wrong, it's fixed quickly and you own it. And the more we do that, I think the better off we are, as a company, but also as an industry.
I think that's a great last quote to finish on here, Michael. It's great advice for anyone in hospitality in any shape or form.
Thanks, Steve.
So, Michael, if somebody wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
SimpleLifeRentals.com is our website. Check us out there. You can see our homes that are available for rent if you ever decide you want to come to a beautiful part of the Midwest.
Yeah.
And that's the best way. And then my email, which is fine, anyone can reach out to me. It's Michael F, like my last name. So Michael F at thesimplelifehospitality.com. So happy to field any
I love
emails.
it. So if you're not driving, make sure to go check out the website. They got some great homes. I have not been in that part of the country, so now I have a reason
You
to
got to
come
get up there.
and see what's going on. It looks so cool. And for any listeners out there, if you found any value in this episode, we shared so many great things. Make sure to forward this over to a friend, because if they're in the industry, I'm sure they will learn something here. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, because we love seeing that base grow and sharing all this knowledge that we've got here. So, Michael, once again, thank you for joining us. I'm very grateful you spent this time with us. Greatly appreciated.
Thanks, Steve.